Congressman Jeff Van Drew, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us here on this Labor Day Friday on WOND.
Great to be with you, and I look forward to talking to you.
Congressman, I know you're pressed for time. I had two other areas I wanted to talk to you about, if it's okay. The first one is difficult. The second one, pretty easy, I think. It's regarding Richard Summers. And there's a big event going on in Summers Point today. Seth Grossman, who ran against you last time, had some very nice things to say about you and your effort to bring home the remains of Richard Summers and the crew of the Intrepid. You've been trying to do that back when you were a state senator. He had some very kind things to say about you today regarding that effort. Do you have any comments on that since they are commemorating it today?
So proud to be involved in the process. So proud of Seth and that whole crew over there, the mayor and all the historic people for working on this so much, because they remember the rule that in order to understand who you are as a people, you must understand who you were as a people. This is who we were, and we can be damn proud of that.
Well, you're darn right about that, Congressman.
My buddy, Seth Grossman, is on the line waiting because he has something that is of interest to people in our community. And good morning, Seth. How are you?
Good morning. It's good to be back, and it's good to be here for our 16th memorial for Richard Summers, something on September 4th that really should be known to every American living in South Jersey. He is such a significant historical figure.
Well, you know what? You are the historian for Richard Summers, Seth. So remind people what it is that Richard Summers is known for here, and what's going to happen in order to commemorate Richard Summers.
Well, the short answer is that Richard Summers, a remarkable young man who died in America's first war against Islamic terror when Thomas Jefferson was president in 1804. We call it the Barbary Wars, but actually it was a period of time when America had just won the revolution. And when we became a new country, we declared that we Americans believed in peace. We wanted to live our own lives. We didn't want to conquer other countries. We didn't want to interfere with other countries. And because of that, when the American Revolution was over, we completely disbanded our army, we completely disbanded our navy, and we completely depended on the goodwill of others to keep Americans safe. And we were shocked when our ships were trading with Italy, trading with Spain, trading with France. Suddenly our ships would be attacked and captured by what we call these pirates of North Africa, who would kill Americans, who would capture them, who would sell them into slavery unless we paid a ransom or bribe to get these people back. And we were shocked as to why people who we had done no harm to were suddenly attacking us. And they frankly said, we do this because according to our religion, anyone who does not acknowledge Muhammad as our prophet is an enemy who must be either killed or enslaved, and this is what our religion tells us to do. And when Thomas Jefferson heard this, he said, we can't allow this. And I'm making the history shorter, but America eventually reached the point where we said millions for defense, not 1 cent for tribute. We built a navy, and 20-year-old Richard Summers and his boyhood friend Stephen Decatur became some of the first officers to join our new Navy at the age of 20. And by the time Richard Summers went overseas to fight what we call the Barbary pirates, he was in command of a squadron at age 26. And they had remarkable success. They freed slaves. They stopped attacks against America. They won the respect of the world. And at one time, Richard Summers and Stephen Decatur, they were national heroes. Every school child knew their story. And what has happened now is he has been completely erased from history to the point that when I was teaching at the community college, I had students who were named Summers. I had students who were direct descendants of his family who never heard of him. And
Wow.
It's a shocking state of affairs, but not surprising. And so we at Liberty and Prosperity have revived the custom of setting aside September 4th of every year, the day he died on the shores of Tripoli, as it says in the Marine hymn, to remember him. And today we're having a ceremony at 4 o'clock in Summers Point at 801 Shore Road. There's a park dedicated to Richard Summers. There's a statue. There's a mural that tells his story. It's right next to the library at 801 Shore Road, across the street from Charlie's. And if anyone is free, I invite you to come join us at 4 o'clock. Or if you're not free, I invite you to go to libertyandprosperity.com, where we tell the whole story.
Wow. Very, very few of us, as you've said, even those who had the last name Summers, didn't know what the history of their family was and how heroic Richard Summers was. That's just amazing. And Stephen Decatur, of course, these are all beautiful names, but since we're not learning history very well in our school systems today, Seth, it's up to you and historians like you to keep these names alive in our hearts and in the history that we know and recognize. I think it's absolutely fabulous. I am going to try to get there despite the fact that I have family, and including an almost 8-month-old. I am going to try to.
Everybody in the family, but the 8-month-old, would probably learn something. So, it's an interesting story. But you could learn just as much by telling the story yourself to your family, because that's really the important thing, to teach our children. And in a normal situation, think of when the Summers Point public schools used to have ceremonies to remember Richard Summers. Think of when Stockton University had programs, when Mainland Regional High School, when Egg Harbor Township High School. The sad thing is, if you had a dedicated history professor who wanted to teach students the Richard Summers story and the whole story, that professor would ruin his career and be fired. And everybody knows that if the quickest way to ruin your career is to teach history that doesn't advance the right political message. And I just want to bring up a couple of things that you learn from the Richard Summers story that makes him so politically incorrect. One of the things you have to understand is that he was, his whole family were Quakers. All the original settlers of Atlantic County in South Jersey, the Smiths, the Leeds, the Summers, the Risleys, the Skolls, the Conovers, when they came to South Jersey, William Penn gave them strict instructions that they could not get good title to their land unless they proved that any Native Americans or Indians who had claim to the land, were not treated fairly. So every acre of land in South Jersey was either not claimed by Native Americans or was paid for, and they reached a full agreement. That's a story nobody wants to tell. Nobody wants to tell the story that the enslavement of black Africans began 1,400 years ago with the Islamic conquest of North Africa. And it was Americans like Richard Summers who brought an end to that slavery and the transatlantic slavery, and that later 350,000 white Americans, mostly white Americans, died to end slavery. The fact that these Quakers of South Jersey, including Richard Stockton, the signer of the American Declaration of Independence and the person who Stockton College is named after, he was no slave owner. The only reason he would buy a slave now and then was to give him an education or her an education so that a former slave could be educated and have an independent life. But yet they're teaching our kids all the wrong history, and by teaching the correct history, they just don't want that story to be told in America anymore. So it's up to us older baby boomers, while we're still alive, while we still remember this stuff, we got to teach our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, and our nephews. So if I'm rambling on a little bit, Ann, this is why. This is an important mission that we have.
No, I think that you should be having someone take videos of you as you taught history, correct history, the history that advanced our freedoms and civil liberties. I think you need to put it out there so that we have a library of people who understood history, who know history, who taught history. It will continue. This is such an important lesson, Seth. And the fact that you got that knowledge is great.
And I just want to emphasize that there is another great group. There's the Summers Point Historical Society, led by Sally Hastings. And one of the big lies that they're teaching our kids called the 1619 Project, that all of America's wealth came from slavery. And if you look at that remarkable Summers Point Museum that talks about when you had the Quakers had settled New Jersey, where every Native American had been treated fairly, where there was not a single slave to be found, where the Quakers were against slavery and did not tolerate slavery and would shun and expel any member of the congregation that had anything to do with slavery. And you see how they built ships in Summers Point, how they would dam up the creeks and build the Bargaintown Lake, and they would use the water from the waterfall from that dam to power these mills, and they would grind up grain, they would plant seeds, they would have, they would go fishing, they would just remarkable industry and wealth right here in South Jersey, all based on the idea of freedom, of not needing government permission to do these things, not having high taxes, that would take away your wealth, so that a young man with nothing at age 18 would be prosperous and basically wealthy by the time he was 28 or 29 years old, and then he would get married. There was such a shortage of women in the area that no decent woman would marry any guy unless he had an established trade, an established business. The idea that people finish school at age 16, learned a trade and mastered a trade by age 19, a remarkable American world that our children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews know nothing about. So the Richard Summers story is almost like a key that once you learn about him and learn about his life, it teaches you so much more about the greatness of America. So we have it all posted at libertyandprosperity.com. I am starting to record many of the talks I give like this, so that you could share them easily. And really, thank you very much, Ann, and thank you so much to Brian Fitzherbert for patiently listening to me as I cut into his time. So thank you again.
No, thank you. We really do appreciate it, Seth. We need to know more of honest history. We don't need to know the deconstructed history that claims that all of our early settlers, our founding fathers, were evil people. That is such a trash argument that we get from the left, and it has to be dispelled. And it's people like you and historians like you and my husband and Brian and others that will dispel this among the intelligent people that are out there who want to really find out what our history is all about. So thank you, Seth.
And I just got a text message that said it's hard to see the Richard Summers post, and so I'm going to repost it in a more prominent spot. But if you go to our website under events for the Richard Summers event, you'll see there's a link to the 18 key facts of the Richard Summers story, but I'm going to make it easier for people to reach that. So, again, have a great day, and maybe I will see you at 4 o'clock at 801 Shore Road in Summers Point, right by the Richard Summers statue, the park, and the mural. And, again, have a great day.
Thank you very much, Seth. Wow. And is Brian with us yet?
Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Brian. Well, welcome, as always, and I hope you got as much out of that as I did, and I hope all of our listeners.
Anytime Seth breathes some knowledge towards South Jersey, it's always worth a listen.
Yeah, it truly is.